Hello, people of YouTube Landia. This is Dan with eBEFOREi. Hope everyone's doing well. I wanted to do a review that might be a little bit past due. This figure's been out for a little while, but I'm still building my channel, and I really love this figure. And so I wanted to just bring it to you and show you my opinion on this. And if you don't have this and you're on the fence, then maybe this can help you make a decision on whether or not you purchase such a figure. This is New York Comic Con exclusive Bumblebee from Transformers Prime. He came with a little Raph figure, and this was packed into a case that had another figure, and I'm drawing a blank because I got this one off of eBay. Just right there, let's put it out there. Picked this figure up on eBay, very decent price, and it is first edition Transformers Prime Bumblebee with a different paint scheme, different head color, and just an overall, I think, probably, should I say this or not? This could come back to bite me. This might be the best version of Bumblebee that has ever been created. There, I said it. And I could be wrong. You know, there may have been another one here or there. There have been, goodness knows, 50,000 Bumblebees over the years. But I really think that this one, for sure, closely captures the way that the animated model looks on the television show. And maybe not the paint scheme, but the figure itself. And just overall posability, the way that the figure looks. I think this might be the best of the bunch. So let's talk about it some more. As I mentioned, it comes with Raph wearing his New York t-shirt and the Autobot symbol. Yeah, it's Raph. You know, he's got his mouth, glasses, hair. It's just Raph, and it's cool. It's not really too posable. He came with a little stand. I don't know where that is right now. His head turns. That's his articulation. There, you just saw it. Nothing else moves, but he's a cool little figure. I think size-wise, it fits quite well. This guy, I could imagine, if this door opened, he would be able to sit in there just fine except for the fact that you've got all these robot parts on the inside. But the size, scale-wise, I think it's fantastic, and that's Raph. Getting back to the Raph figure real quick, paint applications on Raph are great. Considering the small detail on the face, the glasses, he has eyebrows, if you can see that here on the camera. Hair looks great. You know, he's got yellow paint on the shirt sleeves. Sweater is white. Yeah, the jeans are colored. The feet are even painted. It's not just gray plastic on the bottom. So overall, on this little tiny figure, everything is painted except the plastic in his face, neck, and ears. Everything else is paint, including his hands, and I think they did a fantastic job. So that's really the beginning, middle, and end of the review of this figure. Good job, guys. Now, on to Bumblebee. For this to be one of the best Bumblebees that you can purchase, you know, what makes it so? Well, most of that, for me, is in robot mode. In his vehicle mode, to me, this isn't really a whole lot different than some of the other Bumblebees that we've gotten. And in fact, it looks quite a bit like some of the Movieverse Bumblebees, just, you know, general size of the figure. It's not too small in your hands. I think the RID Bumblebee is tiny feeling, especially when you see it just sitting on a table. This one seems to be sized appropriately. He just spit out that weapon. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But size-wise, this Bumblebee feels good in my hands, and I really think that it's sized fairly comparatively to the Movieverse Bumblebees that we've gotten. Looking at paint on the Bumblebee figure, you've got the New York City taxi words here with the checkerboard. So he's a taxi. That's cool, you know. Yeah, took some liberties here. I don't think Bumblebee's ever been a taxi on any of the TV shows that we've seen or movies. But why not? You know, it's in New York. He needs to blend in. He's a taxi. There you go. Makes sense to me. On the front, you've got this huge Autobot symbol. It's a black symbol, but it looks great. It's paint. Paint looks great. He's got some orange plastic paint here as well, and black on the front fog lights. Got black grill. You've got translucent plastic. You know, the plastic here, I will say that might be the one flaw I have on this figure. The blue plastic, both in the windows, on the back, and in the headlights, is kind of a cloudy, translucent blue. So I don't know if I like the cloudiness of it. You know, to me, maybe it would have looked a bit better if it was a darker blue and kind of lose that cloudy. It just kind of looks dirty. It is in New York. Sorry, New York people. You know, the big cities are all have that image of being dirty. But they're not. They're clean. I'm getting myself deeper into this hole. Further paint, he has tail lights painted onto the back. Nothing for the license plate, nothing for the exhaust pipes, nothing for the, I guess, where the Chevy symbol would be if we're saying he's a Camaro. I think we're saying that. Wheels are painted. The one interesting thing about the wheels is that inside of that wheel, on the front, you've got gray plastic underneath it, and on the back, you've got yellow. So it looks a little bit funky, a little bit odd in your hands, I suppose. But that's really it for the paint on Bumblebee. You have this oddly gray plastic connector piece here, which I don't really understand. I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, they've got all this black paint on it. Why wouldn't they just put black there? So that looks a bit out of place. Oh, and one other thing on the engine front, you've got kind of a gray. I don't know how well that's coming across on camera, but you've got kind of a dark gray on the engine block, but yet the engine underneath it, really that's just the top of the engine. The rest of it is yellow because it's the color of the plastic here, and that looks silly. It should have all been the same color, and I don't know why they just brushed over the top and didn't color in the rest of the engine. So as is, it looks like it's got a little tiny piece of metal on top of a plastic engine. There is some seaming issues here on the top of the window, the way that the windshield comes up against the plastic roof. And I don't think it's mistransformed. I mean, I just think that that's the way the toy is made. Again, this is first edition Bumblebee with the New York Comic Con paint scheme, so all the first editions should have the same issue, but they don't quite meet up the way that they should. Not a big deal. Tell you the truth, I don't really notice it until I'm doing things like this review. As far as him rolling, this Bumblebee actually rolls great. You know, a lot of Transformers, we take rolling for granted. You just assume that you turn a robot into a car, he's going to roll. That is a bad assumption, YouTube universe. Bad assumption. But this guy rolls great, and there's absolutely nothing sticking on the bottom. Looking underneath, yeah, you've got some robot kibble, you know, and he's okay. You got legs, you got waist. Arms are kind of tucked underneath here. The feet are on the bottom. You got your head tucked in. I guess you could kind of walking them around like this. Hello, I'm a robot. I know that was ridiculous. I apologize. Also underneath, you do have weapon storage. Here's a flaw with this figure. He only comes with one arm weapon. That does store underneath. You see that he's got these holes here that just slot into the feet. And it doesn't stick real good, as you saw, just kind of tapping it on the table, it fell off. But you can stick this under here, and it stays pretty well. Yeah, just stick it underneath, and it does stay. And you can roll them, and it does stay, and it's fine. But if I do that, he spits out plastic. I think the car looks great. Nothing too exciting. You know, again, it's comparable to a lot of other deluxe-sized Bumblebees that we've got in the past. Where this guy shines is in robot mode, so let's get him into robot mode right now. To transform Bumblebee, this figure, you know, most Bumblebees are very easy to transform. This one's not hard, but there's more steps involved than perhaps there are on other figures. The first thing you want to do is you'll notice on the inside of the figure, you've got these door panels locked into these two tabs. You can see it right there. They kind of do, you know, this kind of number. And they hold in there pretty tight. So to get this guy unlocked, you just kind of have to separate the feet and then get in there and just get it separated from the doors the best that you can. So just kind of pull it up and away, and you'll find that it comes across or comes out pretty easy. But if you don't get it unpegged just right, you could really struggle with this. The last thing you want to do is break any plastic here. So just be careful when you're unpegging the doors. Alright, so you've got your feet down like this. To continue transformation with Bumblebee, you basically want to go, and we can go ahead and finish his feet at this point. So you just want to bring this whole part down, bring this whole thing down like that, flip the toe out. The nice thing about this figure is he does have a back heel, which helps with stability tremendously. And with the heels, generally what I like to do is I like to pull these things out and then you can shape them the way you want to after you get them in robot mode. Coming around to the back, you just want to take these blue pieces here, just kind of tuck them up against the back, which ends up looking pretty nice, I think. Coming back around to the front, this Bumblebee differentiates itself quite a bit from traditional Bumblebees by the fact that the doors themselves don't open, okay, because it's tied to the roof. Now, why in the world would they do that? Because what it eliminates is back kibble, and you'll see that here in a few minutes. The best way really to get it undone is to come up underneath and just kind of pull the whole thing apart like that, and you butterfly it out, okay? Just get it started. Then you want to come in, and you've got these side pieces. You can see that these side pieces are pegged into the door. You want to just separate that from the door itself. That'll allow the door to open fully. Do that on both sides, and that is actually where this guy's arms are located. So I'm just going to reach in here to his back, and I'm going to pull these things out and get them out there in the open. Just pull them out, just like that. All right, the next step that you want to do to finish this guy's transformation is you want to go ahead and bend this part down, all right? Separate these top halves to the doors as much as possible. And you see that they were hooked in as well, so just be careful, don't break off any tabs on your figure, or you'll cry. I would. And at this point, you're going to lift this part up, just like that. You're going to do a kind of a double turn here. You're going to switch the whole thing, just turn it like that. Then you're going to come around to the top and turn this top piece, just like that. All right, when you do that, you can bring this whole thing back down, and this is actually where the head's going to sit on top, and there's a very specific way that you have to tab this in. So stay with me, we'll get to that here in just a second. By the way, to finish the back wings, you can take these top panels to the doors, and just kind of fold them back, just like that. All right, to finish transformation of Bumblebee's head, you're going to notice, and I'm going to get the camera in here as good as I can, but you're going to notice that there is a tab right here, okay? And underneath this Bumblebee, you've got a slot right here. That slot needs to fit into this tab. If you don't do that, your figure will not transform appropriately, okay? So you want to bring this thing down, all right? And you want to get that to tab in right in that slot and just bend it up until it fits in there. You're going to have to move the whole assembly forward in order for that to fit. But get it just right, slot this thing in, and you will see that that's going to fit right in there, real nice and tight. Okay, when you've done that, okay, you know that you've got it right, and then this front piece just kind of goes up and curves just like that. All right, when you've done this correctly, this part right here, this little chest piece, is going to jet out and go up. Now, if you don't do it correctly, you're going to end up with this piece that's going to want to sit flush up against the body, and nothing's going to fit together correctly. So you got to make sure that that yellow piece is tabbed into the gray plastic, and then you've got this piece that's just going to go up in the air. These front bits right here that are on these metal kind of peg screws, I don't know what you call these. And basically, what you should be able to do on both sides is stick your fingernail in there and pull it down. And when I say pull it down, I mean just separate it like that, okay? Now, my figure on the left side, it just won't go down that far. I've tried sticking a hobby knife in there, a set of keys, my son's finger, I mean, you name it. I've stuck things in here, and I cannot get that panel to open fully. So it is what it is. I believe that's just my figure, and hopefully yours will be just fine. To continue transformation, this is also very important. He has two hooks. See those gray hooks right there? You see that? Right there. Okay, these gray tabs need to fit onto that clip. And when you do that, and you push it down, the front chest is going to angle exactly perfect. And you just got to push it down. It'll give you the angle that you're looking for. This front gray piece ends up sitting underneath it quite perfectly. And there you've got the top portion of Bumblebee configured, and the only thing we have left to do is his arms. There are different ways to transform Bumblebee's arms, okay? First thing you want to do is take this part, this kind of hubcap cover. You'll notice a peg right there, and there you'll notice a hole inside the tire. So this thing is going to sit into that hole just like that and give him his little shoulder pad just by turning this thing forward. Do the same thing on the other side. Slot this thing back in. As you can see, this transformation is more complex than the RID version of Bumblebee, if that's the only version that you have. But you'll see when we're done that the results end up being far more satisfying, at least for me. The fists, just got to uncurl them. Okay. Now, some people like to transform Bumblebee by leaving these things out and giving him these huge, broad shoulders. I think that looks completely dorky and ridiculous. So I don't recommend that you do that at all. Now, it's your figure. You can do what you want with him. But what I recommend that you do is to get this guy nice and compact. And to do that, I take these arm bits and I actually collapse it back inside of itself, just like that. And at this point, you're ready to straighten up the waist. On the back of the door panels, this back windshield, or actually it was the front of the car, just folds down. We already got the doors, and you'll notice that there's a hinge in here that you can move these things back and forth. The best way to take care of this is to push it in and kind of angle it back, and you'll get the best look for your figure. When you've gotten them to this point, you simply straighten up the waist, do what you want with the head, and what you have is a complete Bumblebee in his robot mode. Standing next to Raph, I'll tell you, this is what I think, this is just my opinion, but I think that this might be the best Bumblebee figure we've gotten ever. I mean, the color isn't quite as yellow as the regular first edition Bumblebee. However, that being said, he has the silver paint in the face. He has just an overall really nice look to Bumblebee, at least in the Transformers Prime version of Bumblebee. Of all the different Bumblebees we've gotten, through the movieverse, through the classic, the original series, I really think that this one probably looks the best. Now, that might be a controversial opinion, I don't know. But that's my opinion, since this is my channel. But let's get into him. I think the head sculpt on this figure is really fantastic. I mean, if you take a look at it, this guy is Bumblebee from Transformers Prime. From all angles, you can see that he's really just a very straight up and down, very well balanced figure overall. He takes cues from classic Bumblebees of all time, so he still has the car bottom feet and the doors coming out of the back. To match his weapons, now again, you know, as I mentioned, he only comes with one of these. So I stole one of these from the RID Bumblebee that I have to give him to, and I think it looks fine. The detail on this figure, you can see that the Autobot symbol is, you know, somewhat buried in here, but it still looks good kind of peeking through. As I mentioned, this one part doesn't go down all the way on my figure, but it's okay. It looks fine. It doesn't look that off balance to me. The doors on the back, you know, I've seen some people that don't like the doors on this first edition figure, and I really don't have a problem with it. You know, the most of the people that I say that have an issue with it, they've got them all flailed out like that, and yeah, that looks horrible. Don't do that. But if you just place them right inside, I really think it gives them that classic door in the back robot mode that we're so used to over the past many years. Now, the way that I have the arms kind of collapsed into the shoulders, I really think is the best look for this figure. It keeps him away from the gorilla arm look. You don't have these crazy disproportionate shoulders with the skinny waist. So I really think that, you know, to get him to really look as good as he can look on your shelf, compact him in like that, and I really think you're going to get a nice look out of your figure. Looking at articulation, you know, he's got a full range of movement, but now here's where the kind of the downside comes in with collapsing his arms like that. To get his arm up in the air, you're going to have to kind of pull it out a little bit, and you can see I'm already having some issues here. So yeah, I mean, you know, if you want to, if it's important to you to get the most articulation out of that arm, then yeah, you're probably going to have to deform it a little bit. But you certainly can. Now, as you can see, you don't get a straight up and down movement, and that's really kind of a flaw of the figure, as I pop that off. But I don't think that's going to stop you from getting the poses that you're looking for, because again, the forearms go straight up. So you can put his arms almost straight up in the air, and that turns out fine. There is waist articulation. As you can see, his waist does spin. He's got a ball joint in the legs and a swivel right here, right below the ball joint. He's got knee articulation. His feet move up and down, and he's got that heel on the back, which helps him balance. Paint applications on Bumblebee. He's painted well. You know, everything that I showed you in car mode pretty much carries over. So you have the New York taxi sign on the sides. You've got the kind of spotted things on the front. You do have some nice paint applications. You've got the silver, real nice silver here, silver in the waist. You do have a kind of a, I don't think this is painted, but I might be wrong about that. But this plastic gray here isn't just your typical dull Transformers plastic. It's actually got some real nice sparkle kind of fleck base to it. So that comes across really nice. You've got silver in the legs here, and the black stripes on the back of the side of the car, and then everything else that carries over from car mode. So I think that this Bumblebee is very well detailed, and quite honestly, just because of the head sculpt alone, I think that I do prefer this version over the standard first edition. Size comparison, you can see that first edition Bumblebee is quite a bit taller than the RID version of Bumblebee. You also don't have this back of the car neck kibble thing that sticks up, which I think is probably the worst thing about this figure. On the back, I talked about how these door panels flip in, and I'm telling you, some people complain about the way the doors look. I think the doors look great, and what you end up with is a Bumblebee with no back kibble. I mean, you know, except for the doors and the window, but you don't have this sitting back here. You have a very sleek body, and you cannot have that on a Bumblebee figure unless you find something to do with the top of the car. And I think the engineers that designed this toy figured out a way to get around that brilliantly. Light piping on this figure, it's okay. It's not great. You see that there's not a whole lot coming through here. Yeah, it's okay. I've seen better, seen much better, and I've also seen much worse. So again, overall, my opinion on this figure, I really think that this is the one to get. If you're looking for a Bumblebee, goodness knows there's the RID version everywhere. They're warming up those pegs in this cold winter coming up. But if you're looking for something a little bit different, you can find this guy on your eBays. You might find him on other websites that sell Transformers exclusively, but just look around and I think you can get him for a decent price. Thank you again so much for watching. This is eBEFOREi Video Reviews. Subscribe to help out my channel. Spread the word if you like what you see. And thank you again so much. We'll see you again real soon.